Hello and welcome to this presentation on Katie Meyer's Law, Compliance Made Simple, a step-by-step implementation guide for California community colleges. I'm Dr. Mary Ann Tolano-Levesque, the Dean of Students at Citrus College, and I hope that you find this information helpful. Okay, so I'm going to be giving you an overview of what I'm going to cover during this presentation. So first I'll be going over sample language for a hearing notification letter. I'll also be talking about sample language for Administrative Procedure 5520, which is the administrative procedure here at Citrus College that covers student conduct or student discipline procedures. I'll also be talking about the creation of an online consent and acknowledgement form and what that would look like. I will also provide information regarding training materials and a website that we've created here at the college, and I'll share that link down below so that you can access it. Finally, I will go over possible duties for job description related to a confidential respondent services coordinator. This is actually something that I've developed, so if you want to see a full copy of that, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to send that over to you. Okay, so let's talk about our disciplinary letters. I know that they're different at each campus, but I'm going to share what we did here, what I developed for Citrus College, and you're welcome to use this if it works for you or to tweak it if you need to adjust it for your purposes. But basically, the law requires that the initial allegation letter include a clause informing the student of their right to select an advisor of their choice or to request that the college appoint an advisor to them. So we all have to add new language to our letters here at Citrus College. We have warning letters, which really aren't disciplinary action. That's just kind of letting the student know that they need to conform to the code of conduct on campus, and that if they don't, something more severe may happen in terms of discipline. So again, that's not necessarily a disciplinary letter where there's something against the student in a file, so we don't add that language to those. But for any hearing letters, we would add this additional language. So this is the language here. I've highlighted some areas that I want to talk about as I provide this presentation to you. So I'm going to read it first, and then I'll talk a little bit about why we included different parts. So paragraph 1, as part of the disciplinary process, you have the right to be assisted by an advisor of your choice or to request that an advisor be appointed to you. If you choose to have an advisor, they will have access to online training materials regarding the college's adjudication procedures, and with your written permission, can receive updates on the process and participate as an advisor or advocate during the hearing. Please note that apart from cross-examining district witnesses, an advisor is not permitted to speak on your behalf, and an advocate may not speak at all. You may only have one person accompany you during the hearing, and you can decide if they will serve as either an advisor, may cross-examine on your behalf, or advocate, may not speak during the hearing. If you choose to have an advisor or advocate, please complete this form. If you plan on requesting that an advisor be appointed to you, you must do so 7 business days prior to your hearing date. If you have questions regarding this process, please contact the Student Affairs Office and that is not our actual office number since this is going to be on YouTube, or email, again, not a real email, for assistance. So I would insert our office administrative assistant and our office number, but a couple things I want to talk about is we try to make it really clear for the student the difference between an advisor or an advocate. We also added the hyperlink to an online form. So rather than asking the student to write an email to us and saying that they want an advisor appointed to them or that they're going to have their own advisor or advocate, we have created a form which I'll go over later. And then I've also added the piece of, letting the student know, hey, if you want us to appoint an advisor for you, we do need a 7 business day notice. And obviously, if we're going to be doing that, we do need that time to find someone, at least in the interim, to support the student in that way and to have time to even complete the training materials or read through the training materials that we provide online. And we'll get more into that as we go further into the presentation. Okay, so now let's talk about the language that we'll be adding to our administrative procedure here at Citrus College. This is the language that I've proposed that we'll be going through the process for addition. However, I want to be clear that we should start following the law before our administrative procedure is actually approved, because we know that's going to take some time, but we should still be in compliance with the law, even though we maybe haven't updated our procedure yet. So I'm going to share this language with you, and again, feel free to adjust the language as appropriate for your campus. I also want to point out that when you update your administrative procedure or board policy, whichever it may be, maybe it's both, this is referencing now Education Code 66283. So the Assembly Bill that was approved, Assembly Bill 1575, has now translated into Education Code 66283, because obviously now it's passed and it's part of the law. So that's the Education Code section you would reference when you add this to your board policy or administrative procedure. So for Citrus College, I am proposing that we add students subject to disciplinary proceedings under this procedure shall have the right to be assisted by an advisor of their choice, or to request that the district appoint an advisor. The initial notice of the alleged violation provided to the student shall include a statement informing them of this right. Online training materials, section A, is the section I'm adding, and so both advocates selected by the student and advisors selected by the student or appointed by the district shall be provided with online training materials regarding the district's adjudication procedures prior to participating in hearings. And then the participation scope section says that A, with the student's written permission, advocates or advisors may receive copies of all correspondence related to the disciplinary process, attend disciplinary proceedings with the student in a non-speaking capacity, advise the student before and after hearings, non-speaking role during the hearing. B, only advisors are permitted to cross-examine district witnesses on behalf of the student. And C, students may designate only one individual to serve as their advisor or advocate during proceedings. So it's just a section to make it clear what the student has a right to, and to outline it so it's very clear in our administrative procedure. Again, this is suggested language and will probably change as we go through our shared governance process, but I did want to share it with everyone in case you were trying to find at least something to use as you start to edit or to update your administrative procedures and board policies. This is a continuation of the language that I've proposed for the administrative procedure at Citrus College, and it includes the appointed process section A. So students requesting a district-appointed advisor must submit a written request to the Student Affairs Office at least 7 business days prior to the hearing. Attorney advisors or advocates, students electing to be accompanied by an attorney must notify the Student Affairs Office in writing 5 business days prior to the hearing and provide the attorney's full name, license number, contact information, and acknowledge in writing that the attorney's role remains limited to that of an advisor or advocate under this procedure. Documentation requirements. Students utilizing advisors, advocates must complete consent forms authorizing information sharing with designated representatives and participation in hearings per Education Code section 66283. And so a couple of things here. One, we've made it clear in our EP that we do expect, if we're going to be appointing an advisor, we do expect to have at least a 7 business day notice to do so, especially given that that person might need additional training on the disciplinary process. We also request that if the student is bringing someone who is an attorney, that they do notify us of that. Now, previously, our AP prior to this law required that students obtain our permission if they were going to bring an attorney. We can no longer do that because the law does allow them to do that, but we do request that they let us know if that's what they're doing. And this is all part of our form, which I'll share with you so you can see how easy we make it for the student to do all of this in one click. The documentation requirements, we basically want them to click on a consent box in the online form we created to say, yes, I consent to this person having access or being copied on all of the correspondence related to my disciplinary process or proceedings. And so this is a language that, again, is going to be proposed to be updated for our AP. You can feel free to use it if you think that it will work for you, or to, paraphrase or update it in any way that you need to for your campus. So I will be sharing a link with you so that you can see what our virtual training materials look like. But essentially, I will be providing a link to the website down below so you can check it out for yourself. I will not be providing the link to the consent form, and the reason for that is that it's only available via single sign-on, which means that you would have to be logged into the portal within Citrus College to have access to it. But it's really great for the students because, one, it's secure. Their information, I believe it pre-populates, but also we know that the student actually submitted it if they're the ones that have signed in, or at least we have reason to believe that it would be them because they're using their own sign-in through the portal to complete the form. So that's why we do it that way. I will show you some screenshots of that form, but I will not include the link below. And then I will also include the link to a training video that I created specifically for advisors and advocates. So if you want to watch another video and see kind of what we provide in that, maybe it'll be helpful to you as you develop your own training materials for your campus. This is a screenshot of the webpage that I developed for our training or our virtual training. The content on this website includes the definition of advocate and advisor. It also includes the role of an advocate versus the role of an advisor. And there's a link to the consent form, which is really the consent form and also like the request form to ask for an advisor to be appointed to them, or for them to tell us that they have an advisor or a advocate that they'd like us to start copying on their correspondence. So I'll share some of the screenshots for that form with you. That webpage also contains a link to the video that I talked about previously, which is video training specifically for advisors and advocates. There's also a link to our board policy 5500, which is our standards of conduct, and a link to our administrative procedure 5520, which is our student discipline procedures. So feel free to kind of just take this as an outline if you're thinking of doing virtual training for your campus as well. This is a great way to start. I mean, I'm sure that as we progress through this, we may all make some changes and updates, but this is hopefully a good start for you if you weren't sure what type of information to include. This is a chart that I created for our students and advisors and advocates on our training website. It's just to make it clear the difference between the two roles for our students and also for those that are serving in either advisor or advocate capacities. We just want to make sure that it's as clear as possible. It's also written in narrative form, but you can definitely take a look at our website if you want to take a closer look at it or take a screenshot. Hopefully it helps everyone kind of understand the different roles between the two. So this is our online consent form, and this is what the students would be using if they wanted to request that we provide an advisor to them. So if they're doing that, they do have to complete this form at least 7 business days prior to the date of the hearing so that we have enough time to notify or to find an advisor and to make sure that they're trained. The other options that they have is they can tell us that they already have their own advisor that they've selected or that they have their own advocate that they've selected. And so the first portion of this form, if you notice at the top in that red box, it says, please note that if the college does not receive this request at least 7 business days prior to the date of your hearing, we may not be able to provide you with an advisor in time. So we're just letting them know that we'll do our best, but if you didn't follow that 7 business day notice, we may not find someone to be there for you the day of the hearing. And then the green box below, that is where the student can choose. They can say, I have selected my own advisor, I have selected my own advocate, or they can say, I would like the district to provide me with an advisor. And then again, in parentheses, we put the difference between those roles just to remind the student, because we know it can be confusing. So in parenthetical next to advocate, may not speak during the hearing, and then in parenthetical next to advisor, may cross-examine district witnesses on the student's behalf. And so those are the main things on this part of the form. And then obviously we do ask them to enter their name and the date. But when this is submitted, this is what counts as their written request. And I'll go over the rest of the form in the next slide. So for this section of the form, we do require that they provide us with the name of the advisor or advocate, a mobile phone number that we can contact that person if we need to. We also, in that yellow box, we ask really for the email of the advisor or advocate, and the reason for that is we want to be able to copy them on electronic correspondence. And then we also ask for the home address of the advisor or advocate. And of course, that is also because we want to be able to mail them. So here at our college, we send letters via certified mail, regular US mail, and then also via the student's email address. So we would be copying all of that to the advisor or advocate if the student requests that we do that. If you go up to the red box on the top right, it says, is this person a licensed attorney? So there, if the person says yes, we say yes. If a student elects to bring an advocate or advisor who is also licensed as an attorney, the student must give the Office of Student Affairs 5 days notice of the name, phone number, and email address of the attorney. The role of the attorney in the student disciplinary process remains limited to that of an advisor or advocate. So we're just letting the student know, like if they click that box, we just want them to know ahead of time. That doesn't mean that their attorney can defend them now in the hearing process. It would still be the same. And so we want to put that on the form as well. In the green box below that on number 9, we just ask, is the person a college employee? We just want to know, it helps us to know if they're already on campus, and we can get in touch with them much easier. We may be able to use their employee number instead of a Gmail account, for example. The other thing that we go over is in the green box. We let the student know that if they do select an advisor or advocate, or even if we appoint one to them, that the person that they have designated as their advisor or advocate will receive the following email notification. And so below, we did develop an email with the hyperlink that says, hello, you are receiving this message because Citrus College student, insert name, requested that you assist with procedural guidance and support related to a pending disciplinary hearing. Please visit this webpage that is a hyperlink and familiarize yourself with the training materials provided. And then we tell them, contact the individual named above to obtain information regarding the hearing date, time, and location. The reason we say this is because the initial letter goes to the student, and that means that the advisor or advocate hasn't been selected yet. So they wouldn't have seen that first letter that has that information on it. And since we don't encourage the advisor or advocate reaching out to us for that information, we want them to work with the student to get that information. And then anything forthcoming in addition to the letter, that original letter, of course, they would be copied on if the student requests that. Okay, and finally we get to the last 2 questions of our form. The first part is we want the student to consent to either copying the advisor or advocate on all correspondence. And so we have them check this box up at the top right. You'll see that red box highlight. I hereby consent to my advisor or advocate being copied on all official correspondence related to my disciplinary hearing. I understand that my advisor or advocate is not allowed to address the hearing chair, committee members, district witnesses, or the district representative to respond on my behalf. They're also not allowed to ask questions about the case or its findings, or coach me on what to say or what not to say during the disciplinary hearing. So in other words, they shouldn't be whispering back and forth during the hearing. The student should be able to answer questions. So we just make that clear in the form. We have the student check and acknowledge that. We also want to make sure that the student understands different aspects of this. So for number 11, that green box, all those items in there, we want to make sure that the student understands the advocate does not speak at all during the process. So if they choose an advocate, that's a different role. We also want to make sure the student understands that the advisor may only cross-examine, and that's their only speaking role during the hearing process, and they are only cross-examining district witnesses. Finally, we want to make sure that the student understands that district-appointed advisors are not bound by confidentiality and must report if A, the student is a potential harm to self or others, or B, they're aware of possible Title IX violations. So as you all know, most college employees are considered responsible reporters under the law, and so this would not preclude them from that. So if they are serving as an advisor to a student because they're district appointed, they would still need to report these things to the college, to the appropriate person on campus who would handle these types of reports. So we want to make sure that the student understands all of this, they're consenting to this, and we have a submit button, and we also have a send me an email receipt of my responses, so the student can choose to have the responses that they submitted also sent to them so that they can review it, potentially with their advocate or advisor if they have any questions. And they can also reach out to the Student Affairs office here. So this is our training video that we provide virtually on our website. I named it Discipline Hearings Decoded, a guide for advisors and advocates. This video provides a concise overview of the Citrus College student discipline hearing process, specifically tailored for advisors and advocates. It covers hearing procedures as outlined in our Administrative Procedure 5520, including the rules of panel members, cross-examination rules, the standards for determining responsibility, and the process for presenting evidence and testimony. And so I just want to highlight that I do talk about preponderance of evidence, which is the legal standard for disciplinary hearings. And so you may want to make sure to cover that as part of your training, because not everyone is aware of the legal standard for disciplinary hearings. Also, viewers will learn about the sequence of events in a hearing, the rights and responsibilities of students, the role of their representatives, and the preponderance of evidence, as I said before, used in decision-making for the panel members. The short video ensures that advisors and advocates are well prepared to support their students throughout the process. It's also a great video for students to watch if they're, nervous or concerned and they want to know what happens in a hearing. I think this will help a lot for both the advisors, or for all of them, the advisors, the advocates, and the student. Okay, so let's talk about the Confidential Respondent Services Coordinator position. This is a position that was specifically called out in the new legislation, which is now part of the Ed Code. And it says that this person really can serve in this role of advisor. So in other words, if the district has to appoint an advisor, this person would be the person to handle that. These are some bullets from a job description that I developed. I do have a fully developed job description. If you're interested in that, please reach out to me and I can provide that to you. But here are some highlights of the things that you might want to consider as you're developing that job description. Bullet number 1 serves as primary point of contact for students accused of code of conduct violations, providing guidance on their rights, investigation procedures, and available resources. Bullet number 2 assists respondents in navigating investigation and adjudication processes, including attending hearings and related meetings upon request. So in other words, this person is more than just a guide. They're also there for personal support in the sense of, just physically being in meetings with a student. Bullet number 3 coordinates referrals to campus and community resources, such as counseling, legal, and academic support, and arranges necessary accommodations. So an example of that might be if the student needs an interpreter or a translator, or maybe they have a hearing limitation, this person would help them find those resources on campus or in the community to assist the student through this process. Bullet number 4 maintains accurate confidential records of services provided and collaborates with Title IX and other staff to ensure compliance with institutional, state, and federal policies. So of course we want to make sure that we're complying with all the laws, local, state, federal, but then also the collaboration with Title IX, depending on the type of case that you are adjudicating, it may involve the Title IX office, which may include some additional procedures. And finally, bullet number 5 develops and delivers training and informational materials on student rights and the adjudication process, and supports campus initiatives to promote awareness of student responsibilities. So this position is really great. I do want to point out that all colleges don't have the same resources. So if you don't have the resources to hire a full-time confidential respondent services coordinator, which I hope you don't need the position to be full-time, because that would be a very busy person or a very busy disciplinary situation if you have to hire a full-time position. But if you don't have the funding, if you're going to hire a part-time hourly, or you could potentially even have a counseling intern perform this role. I did check with our local university, which is Azusa Pacific University, and they did indicate that the job description that I developed would be good for an intern, that they could get hours by doing this type of work for our campus. So there's a lot of different ways to go. Currently we have one manager serving in this capacity. She volunteers. She's already been trained. And so if someone needs an advisor, she's the person we appoint. But as we get busier, I'm sure we're going to need to recruit some more folks to help us, whether it's interns or campus employees, or even down the road, potentially a CRSC position. So I hope this was helpful if you're trying to develop a job description, and I wish you luck. All right, well, that was a lot of information, so I really want to thank you for listening and sticking through the entire video. I hope that this was helpful to you in some way. If you did find this video helpful, please give it a like. If you would like any additional information, something maybe I didn't cover or have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I look forward to hearing from you or potentially working with you in the future. Good luck to all of my disciplinary colleagues out there. I wish you well and hope that everything goes smoothly for you this semester and into the future.